Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome to the EduSnap18 launch. So, woo, woo! Congrats to all the authors in the house, and thank you to everyone who is joining us. So you're going to get to meet our amazing authors in just a moment. But this right here, this is like my collectible copy of EduMatch Snapshot in Education 2018. This is the proof version. This is a version, if I were to go in here, then you'll see all kinds of writing on there. I like to collect these actually because just as a reminder that everything starts somewhere. So so I really like to collect the proofs, but this was the proof right here for EduSnap 18. So it's officially launching. The Kindle version will be available tomorrow. The PDF version, the free PDF version, will be available on the edumatch.org website tomorrow. And in addition, the actual paperback copy is available now because I wanted to make sure that, you know, we didn't run into any glitches, so better safe than sorry. So that's available now. So we're going to have some really cool giveaways at the end that people can win. So definitely give you some information on that. So this is our third annual EduMatch Snapshot in Education. And I have to say, looking at the list right now, I see that Dean has been on since book number 1. So book 1, 2, and 3, right, Dean? Yes. So I'm seeing the thumbs up. Absolutely. And there have been some amazing, there's some amazing chapters in here. So I really can't wait for everybody to get their hands on this. So we do have a Flipgrid that is flipgrid.com/EduSnap18. So many of the authors have jumped on there, done their introductions. So please interact with them there, leave comments for them, and everything. So we are going to go ahead without any further ado and get started. So let me just give you all just a summary, the same rundown that I gave everybody before we started recording. So each author who is present is going to be part of the hot seat. So you're going to have 3 minutes for 3 questions. The first question will be, what is your motivation for writing your chapter? The second question is, what is a summary of your chapter? And the third question are some tangible, practical takeaways for the reader. So, so those will be the 3 questions. And yeah, so I see Renee's comment about putting the link in the chat for the Flipgrid. Absolutely, we'll do that. And so we're going to get things started with the hot seat. So we're not going to necessarily go in order, but just to let you know, everyone who is involved with this project. Ooh, see, I can't even go through everybody's name on here because it's not in order, but you will get to meet several people tonight. So we're going to kick things off. Thank you, Nancy. We're going to kick things off with Amy. So Amy, are you ready for the hot seat?
I think so.
All right. Well, let's get it cracking. So, Amy, what was your motivation for writing your chapter? And first of all, before you answer, I have to say your chapter was really, really touching for me to read. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing, what was your motivation?
I appreciate that. When I was getting my master's, I had to do a project, a video project. I was getting my master's in ed tech leadership through Lamar University, and this idea popped into my head about making one in honor of my mother, and then in honor of my niece Nancy, who came after. And so when this came around to getting to write a chapter that involved you and so many other people that I admire, I did this in 2016, the snapshot for then, and then I did the teacher's recipe one as well. And I just love being a part of a book with so many voices. And so I was really excited about sharing just my mother.
Absolutely. Loved reading your chapter. So tell us a summary of your chapter. If you could tell us about what you wrote about your mom in your chapter.
Okay, so my chapter is called It All Began with Nancy, and that was the title of the video that I created when I was getting my master's. And it was just to shine a light on a person in my life that was very influential in me becoming an educator. And so I wanted to just show everyone the path my mother had to take, the sacrifices that she made to put my twin sister and I through college. We're both educators, and college is not cheap, especially if you've got 2 at the same time. And she was a single mother. So a lot of what I do as an educator is for her and because of her. And since her passing, my niece Nancy has come into play, and she is now a big driving force in how I am as an educator. So this chapter is just to pay tribute to my mother, to thank her for just making me the best educator that I can be. She was the absolute best teacher I have ever known, and probably ever will. She's my mama, but she was a great teacher, and it was just a way for me to say thank you in a small way, and to thank her and to thank my niece and to just thank all the sacrifices that she made to get me where I am today.
Absolutely. And it was a beautiful, beautiful way to pay tribute to your mom. Wonderful. So your chapter in tribute to your mom, it still like had some very, very powerful takeaway messages for the reader. So what would you say that those would be?
Yeah, I ended the chapter, if I remember correctly, I ended it by saying, it all began like, and then it was ... like who was the reason why you became an educator. And I've learned over the years that it's so important to reflect on my journey, and I'm trying to get back into blogging. I did it so well when I was a classroom teacher, but as an instructional coach, I've kind of I haven't been doing it as much as I would like to do. But I'm realizing how important it is to reflect and to give thanks to those that have come before us, that have paved the way for me to be where I am. I wouldn't be where I am today without my mom, without my niece, without my wonderful PLN and my friends. And so my takeaway would be, think about who your why is and who is the person that brought you where you are today, and just give thanks.
Absolutely. Definitely recognizing everyone who has helped us become who we are as educators. So thank you so much for sharing that. Amy, getting a lot of twin love in the chat. So several people are saying that they either have twins or they have children who are twins. So excellent, excellent. So thank you so much for that. All right.
Thank you for this opportunity, Sarah. Thank you.
Oh, the pleasure. It is a pleasure. And it is a pleasure to work with you for a second time and looking forward to a third. So absolutely. Great. Okay. So we're now going to go ahead and start from the very tip top. So guess who's up in the hot seat? We have none other than Natasha. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. And there's one thing that Dean brought to my attention, the intros. So I guess the very first question is if you could just please introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you.
Awesome. Well, I feel like Amy was a perfect segue for me. I have a twin brother, but I'm Natasha Rachel. I'm a digital learning specialist for Atlanta Public Schools. And we were just talking before the call that we're at that kind of time in the winter break where we don't know what day it is or what time of the day it is, or, I came upstairs to put makeup on to get on the call and my husband was like, "What are you doing?" It's been that kind of a break. But yeah, super excited to be here. I have been in the field or in the world of education for about 14 and a half years now, second career for me, alternatively certified, and have loved every second of it.
Awesome. Got to give you a high five on that alternative certification. Yes. Radio, TV, film in the house. So yeah. So wonderful. Wonderful. So your chapter was also very moving. So please tell us the motivation behind your chapter.
So my chapter, I believe I titled it "Using Your Why to Drive Your Intention." And over the past, I'd say maybe 2.5 years, I've had a lot of interactions with students and different educators, and just some personal experiences that have really forced me to take a look at why I get up and do what I do every single day, and really diving, like Amy said, into that why and thanking those people that have kind of set the road for us or paved the way for us. And so I talk about it in the chapter, but just I think the thing that kind of hit me the hardest, speaking of twins, my twin brother was involved in a really bad car accident about 2.5 years ago. He's still here with us. He was in a coma for 10 days, had to learn how to breathe and talk and eat all over again. And just seeing him go through that process and seeing what really matters and what's really important every single day really was kind of the motivation for me writing this chapter. And it really caused me to reflect on my interactions with previous students that really kind of set the tone for me and really have touched me over my, almost 15-year educational career and journey. But, you know, teaching, and I think we all know this, is more than getting up every day and going to work from 8 to 4 and coming home, and faculty meetings on Wednesdays. And so just really kind of delving into that why and using it to drive your intention every single day.
Absolutely. And you also have another book that you wrote. Is that also about your brother?
I did. So when he was going through this process, this healing process, his brain, the way they kind of described it to us was that your brain, like, think, for example, when you're walking and your legs and your arms know to move left, right, left, right. You have all these kind of like freeways and roads in your brain that just know to do that. And so when he was in his car accident, all those roads and freeways just shut down. And so he kind of had to, his brain kind of opened up all these roads, and they kind of had to learn how to go different directions, because all those roads that were previously programmed have already, you know, they've shut down, so they need to be reprogrammed. And so going through that process, like, you know, we would ask him 5 minutes after he ate breakfast, what did you eat for breakfast? And he couldn't remember. And so I actually looked for first a journal that he could kind of write that was specific to brain injury survivors, and I couldn't find anything out there. So being a resourceful educator, I was like, I'll make him one. So I did it through CreateSpace and ended up putting it on Amazon, and have sold a few copies, but again, didn't do it for, you know, to sell anything, did it just really to help him. And I've actually been able to donate a lot of copies to different brain injury centers across the country. So that's been pretty awesome.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Thank you so much for all that you do. Yeah. So if you could just give us your summary of your chapter, just please tell us about what you talked about in there.
Uh-oh, did we lose audio?
Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
There we go.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so I was just asking if you could just give us the summary of your chapter, like what you talked about, because like I said, it was very, very moving for me to read.
Thank you. So yeah, I tell the story about my brother, not in as much detail, but I give his journey and his story and kind of how that really started my whole living with intention passion. From there, I go into talking about different stories from some of my students. One of my students, Kirsten, who I talk about, she was one of my cheerleaders, and she actually just got married the Saturday before Christmas, and I was able to go to her wedding. But I just talk about the impact that she had on me. I talk about the impact. I have another student, Cortez, another student named Sheldon, and I just tell little snippets of my interactions with these particular students and how they really touched me and impacted me all these years later, and how I still, you know, stay in contact with them and take little pieces from our relationship from way back then, even into what I'm doing every single day.
Absolutely. So what takeaways would you want the reader to have after reading your chapter?
My 3 takeaways would be to know what your why is. So really, I know it's the end of the year and we're getting ready to start the new year, and everyone's into this, you know, New Year's resolution, new year, new me stuff. So really figuring out what your why is. The second would be to live with intention. So begin to focus your intention every day, and you can just start doing that every single morning. And the third one would be to honor relationships, whether it's with your students, your colleagues, of course, your family. But really, those would be my 3 takeaways.
Solid takeaways. So thank you so much, Natasha, for sharing your stories and your wisdom with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. So up next, we have the author of Between a Rock and a Safe Space. So that is Dr. Alfred Rossdale. You ready? Dr. Alfred Rossdale, you ready to be up in the hot seat? All right. You might be muted. Hold on. Let me see if I can get you on this end. There we go. Gotcha. Yes. Alfred, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm doing good.
All right. Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yes.
Welcome, and please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been doing education for about 20 years. Started off as a substitute teacher, and then went alternative route to get my teacher certification. Yep, and Tasha, another alternative route person. And actually, you know, went to my old middle school and high school. Uh-oh. I got it.
We still got you.
You still have me?
Yeah.
So I returned to my old middle school and high school where I taught language arts. I did that for about 5 years before getting into instructional leadership and getting into school leadership. I became a principal after the 5 years. I was a principal at the high school level. I did that for about 6 years before becoming an elementary principal. And then I worked with students with special needs and disabilities here in New Jersey as a school administrator. And now I'm working as a director of curriculum instruction for middle school and high school in a school district here in New Jersey. So that's just about me. Really heavy into mentorship, into teacher development, leadership development, and culture responsive practices in the classroom and at the leadership level.
Fantastic, fantastic. So tell us, please, about the motivation for you writing your chapter, which it was very personal.
Yeah, I think education is personal. I think, it's one of those things. The first two authors spoke and talked about these personal experiences, these relationships, and these whys. And, I think, doing this for 20 years, and then even when I think all of the authors would say, if you even remove the professional, time, you were always a teacher. I just think being a teacher is kind of just one of those callings. So over my tenure as a teacher and as a leader, I began to understand the importance of relationships, at work relationships and home relationships, and how it's important that, as school leaders and as teachers, we understand that sometimes we're the bridge between, a student's home life and then what they're going to experience, between the walls of school. So what I wanted to do is to personalize that and tell stories about my former teachers and teachers, a specific teacher, my 5th grade teacher, Ms. Roy, who had such a great impact on me as a young person, but then also telling the simultaneous story of my grandmother, who was, my basically the person who held me down, and then kind of passed me on to Mrs. Roy in school. And that connection is what sort of first connected me to school. When I was able to see someone in a school building that sort of resembled my home experience and my grandmother, it changed school for me. It really did. And that was the first teacher that I felt, had some type of understanding of who I was and if she didn't understand something about me, she attempted, to draw it out of me, to find out more about me, and not just me, but the other students who were in the class. So I felt that it was important to tell that story. Because I think educators need to hear that story, because I think when you think about what we do now, so much is about compliance, so much is about, how well students are scoring on tests and things of that nature. But sometimes we forget that human piece. And I wanted to bring that human piece, into what it is that we do every day.
Absolutely. Because that human piece, that is the art of our profession right there. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what would be some takeaways that you would want the reader to leave with after reading your chapter?
I think the 3 top takeaways, and I list them in the chapter, is the first thing is that your words matter. One of the things that, Mrs. Roy used to do, one of the things my grandmother used to do is speak sort of my future and speak my life into existence. There was a time where, in just age appropriateness, students and children don't think of future. So the more that you can kind of build in future self into students and into young people, the more you're going to connect them to anything it is that they need to do. The second thing is critical feedback. I'm a firm believer in honest feedback, and my grandmother gave me the most honest feedback. Whether unfortunately that was me going out and get a switch to bring it back into the house to correct behavior, or just teaching me, through stories and helping me understand things and the concepts of, to navigate a world that was very difficult. So, growing up in tough areas, as I grew up in, critical feedback can be a life changer. And if you're not willing to give someone feedback, that can be the difference between life and death. And that's something that I learned at a very early age, and it helped me navigate that world, that outside world, that environment that I was living in. And then the same thing happens in school, because it reflects on expectations. And, because if you have high expectations for people, you're going to be honest and you're going to give them the feedback that they need. The third thing that I would say is that we're all connected. That's in one way, if you see as an educator, if you're able to understand the interconnectedness of us as a people and how our lives connect, I think that you talk about future and then you start talking about building into people and into things and systems that sort of are good for everyone, where we're creating win-win situations. When I taught young people, I always said, I'm going to teach you all as if I'm teaching my children. At the time, I didn't even have children. I said, because my hopes is that if you ever come in contact with my children, that you will give them the same love that I'm giving you. So once I kind of, got those things together and that connectedness, I just think that that's the game changer that we all need. So those are the three takeaways. And I think in the piece, it kind of speaks to how those three things can kind of transform a classroom or a school community or a greater community.
Absolutely. Love that. Love that. Thank you so much, Elford.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Peggy made a comment that there were a lot of nodding heads while you were talking. Like, just the panel was in agreement. Like, I think it was 2 years ago we called ourselves the Bobblehead Club. Whenever somebody like kind of made points that resonated, because you would see everybody's video going like this. Yeah. So definitely bringing that back. So awesomeness. So thank you so much for being on the hot seat. Thank you.
No doubt.
And I think, let me see, I believe I saw Coach Jeffrey in here. So Coach Jeffrey, you ready for the hot seat?
Oh, I'm ready. Can y'all hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Coach Jeffrey, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
All right, doing great, thanks. Doing great. Oh, Natasha said you have a very white voice. Yeah, just with that baritone. I can't even do it. Yeah, but your chapter is up right after Dr. Rawlsdale's chapter. So parent engagement. So you and Dr. Michael Milstead have this awesome chapter about leaving no parent behind. And a lot of times, parents, one of the most essential stakeholders, get overlooked a lot. So very glad to have this chapter in here. So before we get into the chapter, if you could please introduce yourself.
Okay, great. Again, hello, everyone. My name is William Jeffrey. I co-authored the chapter with Dr. Michael Milstead. I am a proud graduate of Prairie View A&M University, where I received my undergrad in biology pre-med and my master's in counseling. Then I went to Stephen F. Austin University to get a master's in educational leadership. I wrote this article with Dr. Milstead because we were talking about education and the criticalness of having parents involved in the students' education. And we just deemed it that, especially in schools of poverty, where it feels that parents are not available, that's not necessarily the case. It's just they're not available at the time that the teachers are available. So that's what our chapter is looking at. And Dr. Milstead was a really great resource about how he worked around the opportunities that he had in his school dealing with that situation.
All right, fantastic. Well, definitely, we are sending Dr. Milstead our regards, and you are here to hold it down for the both of you. So, yes. Awesomeness. So, what was your motivation? And I believe you touched on it a little bit just now in the introduction. But what was your motivation for writing the chapter?
So it was out of disgust, actually. I know of a situation where a parent came to the school. And the parent came to the school in I guess it was a nightgown and some pajama pants and some house shoes. And her hair was in rollers. And I'm overhearing a story that someone was telling about this particular parent who came to the school, and the administrator was supposed to talk to the parent, but he told the parent she had to go home and change. Yes. So I overheard that, and I was not happy about what I heard. And then me and Dr. Milstead discussed this situation. And then we decided that, hey, we're going to do a podcast episode about parent involvement, parent engagement. We're gonna write a Medium blog post about it. And we were talking about writing a book, and lo and behold, we was like, hey, we probably can get in this EduSnap. Let's see what we can do. And so that's what we want to put in there. People who deal with children in poverty, I think it's 49% of all children in the educational system are impoverished in some form or fashion. And parents who come to the school deserve to be treated with respect. So that was the motivation for writing that.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sentiment right there. So excellent. So could you please summarize your chapter for us?
Yes, I'll summarize it in a quick 3 points. First point is that, parents trust you. When your students are in the classroom, they trust you. And if they don't trust you, or if they dislike you in some form of fashion, it's not you. It's something that happened probably before you even got that student. And so just know that the underlying basis is that you are seeking trust from that student and from that parent. And that is the first thing that we have to establish, because Dr. Alfred Ross said it. It's the relationship piece. That's, for some reason, we leave that out. And that is the most important thing. Well, I won't say the most important thing, but very important. Next thing is communicate value and see the future in the student. You see your student for right now, and you're not going to see them in a year. They're going to leave you. So speak life into that student while you have them. Give them a bright future by empowering them, and communicating value when you're talking to parents about those students. And then also, to make your school and classroom welcoming to parents. Make it easy to talk to, lower the affect barrier like we would for a special ed student. Make your classroom and your school inclusive. Don't get rid of the biases, because people can sense your bias. So that would be the summary of the chapter.
All right. Love that. Love that. Yes, because the parents are our partners. So what would be your takeaways for anyone reading your chapter? And I believe that you did a great job summarizing them right there. But what would be any other takeaways for your for readers?
This is a really special situation where you have 21 authors who could bring so much to a book. Our takeaway is that will be what everybody would say, is that, when you get good information, just use it. Again, lower the effect barrier for parents to engage students and communicate with parents as much as you can, even if it's a one-way communication in several different ways. Sometimes you have to email, phone call, and there's nothing wrong with, if you care about a student, to go knock on that parent's door and say, I'm here. I care about your child, and this is what they're doing. I know that they're here now, but in the future, this is something that cannot continue. So that's what we would hope that you would take away from our chapter.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that, Coach. It's always great to see you on here and to learn with you. So wonderful, wonderful. So next up we have Rochelle. So we're gonna bring Rochelle in. So Rochelle, how are you doing?
I am doing well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. Great.
You just can't see me. So it was like one or the other. Technology, you know how that goes. So
hey, it's all good. We're used to it here at EduMatch, so we know how technology can be our friend or our enemy. So
yeah, right.
Absolutely. So Rochelle, could you please introduce yourself for anyone who doesn't know you?
Yep, I am Rochelle Danae Poth. I teach foreign language and STEAM at a high school right outside of Pittsburgh, where I've been teaching 22 years. I love getting involved in pretty much, I have this difficulty with saying no to doing things and trying new things. So that's not really a problem. I enjoy being as active as I can in learning and being part of the EduMatch community. And I'm just sitting here thinking, I cannot believe this is like the third time going through this. Like, I remember that we did the launch party a couple of years ago, and I can't believe how fast time goes. So I just love being part of this and connecting with so many other educators and having so much that we can learn from each other and like wherever we are. So that's about it. I stay pretty active in some different organizations, like with ISTE, some state organizations, and I keep myself pretty busy.
Yes, yes, you do. I don't know how you have time to do it all. Rochelle is also another three-peater with the EduSnaps. So just like Dean, she was in 16, 17, and now 18. So great to have you back here. So tell us a little bit about your motivation to write your chapter.
Well, it's, a couple of years ago, a big part of, I don't know, problems that I was having, I realized like it was because I wasn't asking for help. And, we've heard people say how isolating teaching and the profession in education can be. And so I took a chance several years ago and started to connect on Twitter, which I had no idea how it worked, what the value was in it as far as education and learning, and just started to become more connected. And I was amazed at how quickly I started to know other people from around the world, and more importantly, the kind of opportunities that it was bringing not only for my own growth, but that it was bringing in for me to do more for my students. So whenever I was thinking of a topic for a chapter this year, like my other years, I did blended learning and I did project-based learning, but a big part of my life that I've really noticed a huge change in over the past year has been and has come from being more connected. And I'm so surprised sometimes at like how many people know my friends and vice versa, and how quickly you can form these networks to grow in. And so that's kind of what led me into deciding, you know what, I think I'm going to write about the process of becoming more connected and, what the benefits are for doing that.
That is awesome. And saw your shout out to so many wonderful people in your chapter. So yeah, and I have to say, like how you were saying that your friends are my friends and my friends are your friends. And I kind of feel like I'm P. Diddy on that one song where he's just like, tell your friends to get with my friends and we could all be friends,
I know, right? That's
yes, that is awesome. That is awesome. So could you please give us a summary of your chapter? It was really cool. So if you could please just summarize that for us.
Yeah, it started when somebody sent out a tweet to what they thought was my actual username, but they kind of ended up creating one for me to use. I must have created it somewhere along the way. And just from that point, I started to get involved with Twitter and do things that I really never thought that I would be doing as far as connecting, meeting people through, virtually meeting people and having these friends out there. And so that was the first step. But a big change came about thanks to my good friend Rodney Turner, because before ISTE of, I think, 2016, when it was in Denver, he organized this group that came through on Voxer and just started a conversation with a lot of people from around the world that didn't know each other, and brought us all together to have this meeting, this Roxy, this Vox meetup. And it was from that point on that we just started to kind of connect and grow and build our networks together. And I'll never forget that one of the things that he always said is, you might come to a conference like ISTE or whatever conference by yourself, but you're never alone. And if you're walking and you see somebody who's sitting there by themselves, just go over and start talking to them. And he's like, you might walk over and invite them to join you, and they might say, you know what, I'm totally fine by myself. But it might just be the one thing to connect, and then now you have somebody that you can at least spend some of that time growing with. So for me, from 2016 until now, I have a couple of really important PLN, like core networks that I refer to. And people have asked me so many times, like, who are these My 53s that you're tweeting? And it's been like this great mystery, but I do talk about who they are and how we came to be named My 53s in the chapter. But it's also a group of friends from around the country and even out of the country who I connect with every single day. And that's a huge part of my day with them. And then, you have these times when you can become part of a PLN when you don't even expect that that's going to happen. And the prime example of that is joining in a book study group with Voxer on the book 4 O'Clock Faculty. And some of us stayed together. And now, January, it's a 1-year anniversary where we've just formed this 4 O'Clock Faculty PLN. And, it's awesome to have those people that you can connect with every day. And, they get to know you and you know them, and you just have that source of support whenever you need it. And it's not always that it's about education. I mean, it's just life in general. So, just being open to like where those PLNs can form, I think is important, and just keeping open to options like of when it happens.
Absolutely. Those organic connections that you make, those are like everything. It's crazy because like the first time that y'all meet face to face, it might feel like the high school reunion. The second time y'all meet face to face, it might feel like, you might, well, not feel like, but you might be like crashing at that person's house, like when you're in town. So that is awesome. So cool. Could you give us some takeaways that you would have from your chapter?
Well, I would say the first thing is, make sure, like, you have to escape from just being you. Don't stay in your classroom or hide out or anything like that. If you're not connecting with somebody, whether, it's in a physical space or not, I mean, there's so many options that you just have to find what works for you. So maybe just start by, hopefully everybody's already a member of EduMatch, but if not, I would say you definitely need to join EduMatch because that's part of when I started to become more connected. Second, I would say if you have some friends and they're not necessarily in the same group with you, start to make your own connections and invite your friends to be the friends with your other friends, because that works really well too. And then I think third is kind of tied in with conferences, but there are so many other organizations that are out there that enhance your learning experience, whether you become a member of ISTE, your state affiliate of ISTE, or even just some of the organizations or some of the ed tech companies that have ambassador programs, like Microsoft community, the Google community, any of those, that's still going to be your PLN. It's going to connect you with people from all around the world. And the point, besides building your own professional skills, and it's definitely, helps you as far as a person, all of the learning and perspectives that you get from that, but it's going to do so much more for your students or for those in your school or whatever your role is. It's going to have an impact on that too.
Yes, totally. Those connections that we make, they are very far reaching. Sometimes we don't even know the impact that they make, but they trickle down to our students, and, that can trickle down to maybe even their students,
Yeah, right.
So absolutely. Well, that is awesome. So Rochelle, thank you so much for being here. Oh, and can you also tell us about your upcoming book? Well, books, plural.
Yeah, well, I do. I am excited to have one coming up with EduMatch very soon. And the best part about that is I have other people who are contributing vignettes or writing even chapters in it and doing some of the artwork for it, which I'm ecstatic about. I have one with EduGladiators, which will be kind of the same with people contributing. That'll be out also in the spring. And the first book that hopefully will probably be out is called Unconventional. It's the third in the series, the Unseries with Chuck Poole and Mark Barnes. So doing a lot of writing, but honestly, the best part of it is just bringing other people in to share their stories, because I think that's so important.
Totally. So thank you for all that you do, and for amplifying people's voices, and also for all of the sharing and learning and growing that you do with all of us. So great to have you here, Rochelle, as always. So thank you for being part of the hot seat.
Thank you, Sarah.
All right. Thank you. All right, next up to the hot seat, we have the author of The Creative Teacher, Marvia Davidson. Marvia, are you here?
I had to find the unmute button.
Okay. Cool.
I was clicking on my box like that had the button on it.
No, I got you. Well, welcome, and thank you so much for being here. So if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself really quickly before we dive in.
Sure. I'm Marvia Davidson, and I am a district level administrator at a local charter school in North Texas. My role actually changed since I published my chapter. I was an English language arts, social studies instructional coordinator, and now I'm a coordinator of school improvement in our district. And I used to be a high school English teacher. So that's me in a nutshell.
Yes, ELA teachers. Woo-hoo. Absolutely. So that is awesome. So your chapter is all about creativity, and that is so important. Could you tell us your motivation for writing your chapter about the creative teacher?
Sure. I was thinking about this and what everyone else has already said, and it's probably going to be the same. A lot of it is about connection and relationship, but sideways to that, for me, it's also about learning to tell better stories, because I remember when I first started teaching, nobody really talked about being none of that really existed way back when I started. There was no connection. There was no building relationships. It was, you went to the school, you did your job, you went home, and you didn't solve problems. It was, you sent kids to the principal's office. You didn't really try to resolve issues, and it was follow the curriculum and all the ancillary materials, and no really thinking outside of the box. And that works to a certain degree until you get comfortable with it, and then you get bored. And I was kind of one of those people that needed to be able to do things in a way that made sense for me, so I could be me in the work. So that's one of the main motivations is to tell the good stories of what it means for you to be you in the classroom, in the work that you do. And I think that matters not just for teachers, administrators, but also for students, especially because we're in such a social media saturated world that if you don't know how to be your own self, you'll get carried away being what you're not. And I think it's important for kids to see that modeled, and for teachers to model that for just being themselves. And I've had kids tell me all kinds of crazy things about myself, as evidence from the chapter I wrote, because kids would tell me all the time, Miss, you were so weird. They always thought I was on some crazy drug. I'm not. This is just natural, 100% goofball. If you look up the word random in the dictionary, there's my picture, the goofball, that's me, I'm there, but that's just me, that's how I am, and that helps me relate to my students, and it helps me feel like I could have longevity in the classroom, because I don't know how many other educators hit this, but I think many will resonate with the whole, I think everyone comes to a point in their career where they hit a wall of, I'm either going to keep doing this and find a different way to do this, or I'm going to leave this field because I can't keep doing it the way I was doing it before because it's not working. And what I was trying to do with my students wasn't working. I was working at a school that was it wasn't an alternative school. It was for at-risk students, dropout recovery kind of sort of program. And so I needed to be able to do things differently for them in ways that were not like what they were used to. So that's how that came about.
That is very cool. And a lot of what you're saying just really, really resonated with me. So I love that you bring your own like essence to your teaching. That is just, I love that. I love that. So give us a summary of your chapter.
So in my chapter, I share this story of a class, I think it was a junior level, maybe sophomore level English class I had. And my students had to learn about rhetoric and all that stuff. And it was really hard for them to understand it. And I was doing everything I could to make it work. I was looking at ancillary materials, and there wasn't really a lot of Google then, so I couldn't really Google anything. I was asking for help, and I just stumbled upon some materials that had you use, I guess, like, what do you call it, manipulatives and boxes and all kinds of creative things. And it dawned on me that if I used things that they could relate to, it would make more sense for them to analyze rhetoric when they see it in print or when they hear it on TV or on a radio show. And it's funny when I think about it now that a lot of the things I did in that chapter where I share that story, I've had these experiences where I'm in the grocery store or I'm at the mall and I see something and it makes me think I could use that for a lesson. And so that's where the creativity comes for me. And so for that lesson, it was, I'm going to use these cereal boxes, oatmeal, political cartoons. And I literally did go to the store and buy a box of Fruit Loops, a candy bar. And I would talk to the kids about, well, who is this for? Who's going to get this box of Fruit Loops? You're the parent. You know that this isn't good for your kids. Are they really targeting it to the parent, or are they targeting it to the kids? And that's where we started. And they started to get it. And so this concept that was hard for them, all of a sudden they were able to grasp it. And by the time we were done, they really blew me away with their level, because they went from not understanding to now I'm able to analyze these things and apply it to my own life, which is another major part of that chapter, is that you be yourself, be creative in the work, but also don't be afraid to fail in the work and let kids know, well, this isn't working, because I had to tell them that too. So let's try this way. And they participated, and I wasn't making up stuff that they weren't going to use. Like, even if you go to the grocery store or the mall and you buy a pair of pants, why are you buying that pair of pants? How are they trying to attract you to? So that's how we did a lot of that. And it turned out really good for my kids. And the ones that were behavior problems weren't really behavior problems. I mean, I still had some, but just that one little tweak helped me relate to them and use their interests and my interests to combine together. Because I think sometimes you have to do that in education. Like, it's not all about you. It's, what do my kids bring to the table? And I had a lot of kids who were gangbangers. They were from rough circumstances. So I had to find some of those kinds of things, also school appropriate, obviously, to help reach them. But I was like that a lot when I even first started teaching. which was get to know your kids. I know this kind of jump into your question of 3 takeaways, but I'll tell you what they are, which is be real, be a creative connector, which means you have to be willing to get to know your kids. And to me, you're not going to last long in the classroom if you can't get to know your kids and get on their level and know who they are and what they're about. And I've had lots of kids who were at risk or in poverty, and it helped me to help them to know what they wanted, because if I heard something, I could say, hey, you said you wanted to be a mechanic. Did you talk to so-and-so, because this opportunity exists? If you graduate from high school and you have this skill, you will have it for life. Because those were a lot of the kids I worked with. They wanted a skill, but they also needed people who weren't going to laugh at their dreams and tell them, oh, you have to go to college. Well, not every kid goes to college. They need to know that it's okay to work with their hands and all that kind of good stuff. So, and then creative relevance was the third takeaway. Sorry, I kind of like a train went off the rails there.
I love it. I love it. That is awesome. So, wow, lots of great food for thought in that chapter. So thank you so much, Maria. That was amazing. And your chapter is amazing. So
thank you. I was glad to be a part of it.
Oh yeah. We're glad to learn with you. So thank you for everything. So awesomeness. So next up in the hot seat, we have the author of the 3 Ps and 3 Es. So Craig, are you still in the house? Let's see, Craig. I'm gonna unmute you on my side. Okay. Can we get a mic check from you?
I think I'm good. Hold on.
Yep, we can hear you. Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Craig. Well, welcome to the hot seat, and thank you so much for joining us. So could you please introduce yourself?
Okay, well, my name is Craig Shapiro. I've been a health and physical education teacher for about 30 years. So it's been a long time. Started at the elementary level and wanted to coach, and got lucky enough to kind of move up to the high school level, where I've been for about 24 years, and loving every minute of it, actually. It's amazing.
That is fantastic. What do you coach, Craig?
I coach cross country and track.
Ah, nice. All right, excellent.
And wrestling.
You said, and you play?
And wrestling.
Oh, and wrestling. Okay. That is fantastic. So, Craig, tell us your motivation to write your chapter.
Well, I guess part of it, the couple things. Well, I'm writing a book, so the chapter that I wrote is kind of part of that book. And the other part really is when I thought about it, it's called the 3 Ps and 3 Es. And being in education for so long, a lot of times people tend to make it very complicated. They try to analyze all this data and grades and academics. And for me, especially teaching for a long time, I've always thought that I wouldn't say that teaching is simple, because it's definitely not. I think it's really challenging. But if you have certain characteristics or traits that you are going to bring to the classroom or school, you're going to be really, really successful the vast majority of time. So it was kind of like, okay, what are the 3 Ps and 3 Es that I thought were really important? And they're not all are totally inclusive. There are others, but the ones that I came up with, I kind of thought they are really important. And if you have them, you're going to be pretty good.
Yes, absolutely. So I love that. I love the fact that they're like kind of easy to remember. So if you could summarize those for us, please, and summarize your chapter as a whole. So what are the 3 Ps and the 3 Es?
Okay, so the 3 Ps are passionate, persistent, and patient. And the 3 Es are empowering, enthusiastic, and empathetic. And of course, I always love the passionate piece, because I talk to a lot of teachers and I kind of say, if you're passionate, you've got about 95% done. Kids are going to know right off the bat that if you are a passionate teacher, you're bringing a whole bunch of other things to the table. And people can tell that. I was listening to the other authors, and it's pretty obvious that every single one of them is passionate. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't be doing what they're doing, and they wouldn't be talking about what they're talking about. You could tell a passionate teacher. The patient piece, this is a kind of a learned skill, especially for new teachers. Because I remember when I first started teaching, when I was 22, you never learn that in college. Like, nobody's telling you, hey, you got to be patient. They're teaching objectives and standards and grading and lesson plans, but they're never sitting down and saying, wow, being patient is really important. And that's a skill that over time you're really going to be tested on, no matter what happens. So I guess, I kind of look at that as, just being something that's really, really important. What was my one? Patient, passionate, persistent. Oh, persistent. So again, you're going to be in class and there's going to be kids that are having trouble, no matter what, at any level, at any grade. And being persistent just really means sticking with it. Taking a breath and saying, hey, listen, I got to really help this kid. And even if they're giving me trouble, being persistent is going to really help me. So there's the 3 P's, 3 E's, empathy, being empathetic. It's just really important. I think about this a lot at the high school level where kids turn in stuff that's late. And I'll talk to teachers and they'll be like, well, should I take points off of the kid's grade? And I first think to myself, we don't know what this kid's going through. Like, we got to be able to kind of understand their plight before we make judgments on things. So the empathy piece is important. Obviously, we want to empower kids. That's kind of where we are as an education with technology coming on. People talk about a growth mindset. And I guess enthusiasm, that's simple. Love what you do. Love being in the class because kids will know it and you will definitely show it.
That is so true. The enthusiasm will just you can't contain it. It'll just always bust out. So absolutely. That is awesome. So what are some takeaways that you would like for the readers to have?
Well, I guess, Sarah, my takeaways are not necessarily the 3 P's and 3 E's. It's really more along the lines of just thinking about taking a step back and saying, hey, when you walk into school, what are you bringing? If you said to a teacher, what words describe you and how are you bringing them to school? What are they? And if they are those 3 P's and 3 E's, you're going to be really, really successful. If they're not, then start developing them.
Absolutely. I couldn't unmute fast enough. I wanted to, I saw some claps going. I wanted to clap as well. So that is awesome. Thank you very much, Craig, for your chapter and for being in the hot seat. It's definitely a pleasure to learn with you. So awesome.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. All right. So up next, we have the author of Throwing Rocks into the Soul. So Martine, are you here with us?
Yes, I'm here with you guys.
Hey, Martine.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey, yes, happy evening to you too. How's everything?
Oh, it's going well. I'm excited to be a part of EduSnap18.
Yes, and we are excited to have you. And you are also writing a book for EduMatch.
Yes. So the book that I'm writing about is, this is my 3rd year as an instructional coach, and I actually did not think that I would ever leave the classroom. I consider myself a classroom lifer, that I would, do my 30 years and then retire, and the opportunity revealed itself to become an instructional coach. So my book is basically about the lessons that I've learned, the mistakes I made, and how I worked through the process of taking my mistakes into winning opportunities. I'm almost going into my 15th year in education. I'm an instructional coach at a high school with a focus on tech integration, but I always say it's less about tech, it's more about instruction and how can we create learning experiences that change the lives of students and teachers. And I think that's it for me. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Love that. And also you are the EduMatch managing editor. So
yes. I've been working through a couple of manuscripts right now, and just I like to help people. That's what I like people to know about me. Whatever I got to do to help someone realize their best self, whether it be in writing, in coaching with professionals or working with students, I just like to help.
That is awesome. Yes. And you are definitely a very giving person. So definitely blessed to have you as a friend. So could you tell us about your motivation for writing your chapter in EduSnap18?
So the chapter that I wrote, Throwing Rocks into the Soul, when I taught in the classroom, I was an English teacher, taught English and speech, but majority of my experience was English. In our state, we call it on level. So these were all students. Many of the students are at risk or at least struggled with English language arts, at least a little bit. And so the lesson that I decided to write about for this book was basically probably one of the most powerful lessons of my career that I was able to teach. Now, I always preface it by saying, going into this lesson, I was a little nervous. For my chapter, I focus on Frederick Douglass's autobiography, but specifically chapter 10. In chapter 10, Frederick Douglass is 16 years old, and I taught juniors, so they were also 16 and sometimes 17 years old. And so he chronicles basically the moment where his life changed. At one point, he even considered suicide as a means to leave or get out of slavery. But something happens and it changes his life forever. And that's how because of what happens, that's how we end up with Frederick Douglass as a famous abolitionist and speaker and author. And so I was presented with this unit, and there's a certain part in the book where someone gives Frederick like a charm, and just to give him a symbol like don't give up, to keep going. And so I wanted to replicate that with my students and just kind of model this idea, that no matter how dark things get in your life, that, there is a way out and that you just need to push forward. I struggled with the lesson at first, so I wanted to give them something, but I wanted it to be something that would last. But I was like, I could give them a rock, but I was quite terrified about it. It's like, they're going to leave my class and throw rocks the rest of the day. So that's how I remember being specifically terrified that they were going to spend the rest of the day throwing rocks across campus. And I did it for about 4 years. I never had a rock thrown, and I was so excited because I was like, oh my God, this is going to get back to my principal and this is going to be bad. But what I learned from it, and what my students learned from it, is that they do have connections with these primary sources. Oftentimes we're reading a piece, especially a piece that's old, especially a topic covering slavery. Students just don't believe, like, this is not me. I'm not connected to this. And so that chapter gave me the opportunity to show them that no, there are real world connections to your life and the pieces that we read. And professionally for me, it kind of sent me on a path of always seeking resources that my kids could walk away from a lesson. And it really fostered this belief of, whether my students go to college or whether they go to college and become a language arts major and dive deep into literature, or whether they decide that they want to own their own mechanical shop and work on cars. I want my kids to read text and be able to sit at a table with people of all different backgrounds, whether they have 4 degrees or no degrees, and be able to have good discussions about references to literature. And it ended up being a fantastic experience. To this day, I still have kids who, the ones that did get a rock, they'll tell me, I still have the rock. And so that's basically what my chapter is about. It's just about, like, what can you do to make a difference in the lives of your kid. It was almost a serendipitous experience, just because I had kind of decided, okay, I'm going to do rocks. I said, well, I don't have a lot of money, but I'm going to the dollar store and I'm going to get these rocks. They had them like 40 to a bag, had 150 kids. And so I get in line and I drop all my rocks on the thing. And then I look up and I don't have any money. Don't have my debit card, my wallet, nothing. And the lady in front of me pays for all of my rocks. And I remember thinking, I am right on track. I don't know why this is such a meaningful, this is going to be a meaningful lesson, but I remember thinking this is going to be right on track, because there were, probably about $5 worth of rocks, but it just started to change the dynamics that I had with my students and my experiences with them at that time. Yeah.
Wow, that is powerful. I'm looking at the chat as it's going through, and everybody's just like, oh, you can't. Okay, hold on. Hopefully, can you hear me now? Now. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, HIJK LMNOP. Okay, let me drop it in. Can't hear me? All right, I'm gonna type it. Okay, so I'm gonna type it as I'm talking.
I can't hear you.
The good news is that
Hold on, I can't hear you.
Okay. I am a fast typer. What are your takeaways for anyone reading?
Okay, I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Yeah, I'm a pretty fast typist, so I was just like, let me type as I talk. But what would be your takeaways for anybody who's reading your chapter?
Big takeaways is that you can, so especially when you're working with students in on-level classes who might be a little resistant to reading, you know, much like some of the authors said, if they're struggling with things like, you know, food, having a place to stay, family trauma, emotional trauma, it could be sometimes very difficult to connect them with historical primary resources and then have them read and discuss it. So I guess one of my first takeaways is work hard to find universals and primary resources. You know, I kind of stumbled upon Frederick Douglass, but prior to that, I had no idea that there was just this great snapshot of a historical figure, and basically he was having many of the same issues that our kids now face today. There wasn't too much difference in regards to him trying to overcome adversity and not feeling like he had anyone, and that isolation. And so my first would be, as often as you can, when you're, especially if you're in a place where you're required to follow a specific curriculum, try to really focus and find those moments where the students could really connect to some of these primary and historical pieces on a personal level. Communicate relationships within text. You know, this was one of my units. I actually had some things before and a little bit after it that was all about how can I take adversity and travesty and make a difference in the lives of my students and formulate good, strong relationships with them. I was high school, so I also tended to do this in the spring. And those relationships would be what would carry me through May, which everyone knows by the time you get to May, it gets a little rough because they're like, oh, I won't see you again for 2 months, so it doesn't matter, right? And so I would specifically do this unit in the spring so that I would be able to foster those good, you know, just really congeal the relationship aspect while still teaching the text. And then my third takeaway is just tell real stories. If it doesn't feel real, relatable to the kid, they don't have any purpose in reading it. And so as often as you can, tell stories that are real and that can lift up from the page and guide students to the next chapter in their lives.
Love that. Love that. Powerful and actionable takeaways right there. So that is awesome. Thank you so much, Martine. Thank you for joining us. And yeah, so really enjoyed learning with you in the hot seat. So next up to the hot seat, we have someone who I'm having the pleasure of seeing for the second time today. Oh yeah, I got to see Dr. Sharon Porter earlier this morning today when I was on her show. So thank you for having me. Now welcome to you on here. How are you doing?
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, excited to have you. And I love the green screen action we have going on. That is
absolutely
so cool. So your chapter is Preparing to Lead, Coaching for Aspiring and Novice School Leaders. So if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself before we dive into your chapter.
Absolutely. I'm Dr. Sharon H. Porter. I am currently a leadership development coach for a school district in Maryland. I'm a former principal, former assistant principal. I've had a lot of positions in education. Started out as a classroom teacher, elementary and middle, and was a principal in elementary, middle, and charter school. I also am a podcaster and, as you said, an interview show host as well. So just excited to be here.
Just a woman with many, many talents and skills. So excellent. Well, glad to have you here. So if you could please just tell us the motivation behind writing your chapter.
Absolutely. I currently work with aspiring principals and novice principals. So first and second year assistant principals and first and second year principals. And so it is really a passion work. We talked about passion a little earlier. I love developing others. And so that really was the motivation to really speak to aspiring leaders and aspiring principals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So give us a summary of your chapter, please.
Absolutely. And so with preparing the next in line, my first anthology that I wrote featured aspiring principals, 9 assistant principals. And so what I do is really go through and speak to them to let them know what they need to be doing while they're waiting for this principalship. And, because it is not an easy feat. People look at it and they think they can do it, but when they get in that seat, it's a whole new ball game. And so I really talk to them, and even in my daily work with aspiring principals, let them know, do the work now, don't wait. So do the work to prepare yourself to become leader, because at any given time, you are it, tag you're it. And so especially if you're in a large urban school district such as I am, at any given time, you can be chosen as an acting principal. And everyone knows that when you're acting principal, you are principal. So it's really helping them prepare themselves for that day.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. And you do so much. So you have published books as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And tell us about the Grind Network also, please. I'm checking
absolutely. So yes, I got it. Yes. So the Grind really focuses on my edupreneurs, my educators who are also entrepreneurs. It's really a network for us to network, support each other in our endeavor, because I am a believer that we as educators, we have so many talents, so many skills, that we should not all be using it for a school district, that we should tap into that and utilize something else that we can do for the good of ourselves and for our future. And so that's what the Grind Entrepreneur Network is. It's just tapping into those edupreneurs and keeping us together.
Love that. Love that. All right. Fantastic. So if you could please tell us some takeaways from your chapter that you would want the readers to leave with.
Absolutely. So the top 3 really is intentional development must be first. You have to take ownership on your own development. You cannot rely on your principal, because sometimes the skill or the will may not be there for that principal. Also, it's not your school district's responsibility. Although we take an onus as a school district, you have to be proactive and get out there and find your mentors, your coaches to move to the next level, and not just depend on the people around you. So that's the first one, intentional development. The second one is that leadership is not title. We always know that. It is not about position. Aspiring leaders need to lead where they are. Period. No matter where they are. If they're in the classroom, you need to lead. So that's the second thing. Leadership is not title or position. And then the third thing is very simple. Leadership matters, because it does. We all know that the classroom teacher is the first variable into school improvement, but the school leadership is second. And you cannot have awesome and amazing schools without awesome and amazing school leaders. So those are my 3 takeaways.
Wow. I love that. I love that. Yes. It's like mic drop moment, right? So fantastic takeaways. Everybody check out the chapter. Just amazing work. So looking forward to more collaboration down the line, Dr. Sharon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for being here. All right. So next up to the hot seat. I think I saw Ryan a little earlier. Do we still have Ryan here? Ryan.
Hello?
Hey, okay, how you doing, Ryan?
Hi.
Hi. Doing great. Oh, it's great to see you. Great to see you. So if you could please introduce yourself before we dive into your great chapter.
All right, my name is Ryan Reed, and I teach in Maryland. This is about my 7th year teaching, but I have a lot of experience with diversity and inclusion. I was the president of the NAACP for the state of Pennsylvania. I also spoke at Harvard University on inclusion and for students. So, and I also have a lifestyle empowerment brand at ryanreed.com, where we educate, innovate, and empower the community.
Fantastic. And it's so great to have you on here. So thank you for that. And you have an MBA too, right?
Yes, yes.
Wow, just doing big things. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I specifically got that after I started my teaching career, because I realized that, you know, in the process of recruiting and retaining teachers of color and people from diverse backgrounds, we need to have more strategic decision making in that process. So I wanted to be an expert in that as well, not just being a teacher, but also getting my MBA and understanding business.
Wow, that is fantastic. I'm gonna have to pick your brain on that at some point because that's definitely something that I would love to do as well. So awesomeness. So could you please tell us the motivation behind writing your chapter?
Okay, so it really is a lot from my upbringing. I am biracial, so my mother is a dark-skinned woman, and my father is this Irish American man, and really he doesn't always understand what it's like to be a person of color. And my mother, you know, we have to train him, okay? You know, he might say some things and then go out in public, and somebody might not be always happy with what he's saying, even though he has 5 Black children and a beautiful Black wife. So because of that, you know, my experiences, I see both sides of the story. And then, you know, working in an urban area, I'm interacting with other people of color, and they also don't understand me. Sometimes they say, well, why are you so pro-Black? And I'm like, well, you know, I could go into this big long story, but you know, just both sides of the community, we need to do a lot with building our relationships so we can understand each other more. So that pretty much motivated me in understanding why it's important to consider teacher recruitment.
Absolutely. And that is so important. So if you could please give us a summary of your chapter.
I first started to talk about the certification process and making sure universities built in supporting people of color in their process. So where I graduated from, Millersville University, which is in Pennsylvania, I had an amazing professor, Dr. Rita Smith Waddell, who actually just passed away about 2 days ago. So we're mourning her death right now. But she was very instrumental in starting African American studies at the university. And through that, we have also a color of teaching program. So people at the high school level, as well as at the university, get support in understanding what you should look for when you are taking your exams and where you can go to get support in that certification process. Also, second point is the onboarding process. So once you got your certification, what's next? So thankfully, through Twitter, I connected with Dr. Tarama Diaz. She's the executive director of African American Teaching Fellows. So she shared some amazing tips on how her organization helps build community for those teachers who are now maybe entering a predominantly white community, and how to stay there and make the impact that they need to make because of that. And then third, amplifying the leaders' voices when they get there. Like Dr. Sharon was saying, you know, you are a leader based on how you conduct yourself and not necessarily the title that you have. So amplifying voices is pretty much going along with what Dr. Sharon said. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. And yes, I was reading the comments in the Zoom, and definitely this is important work. This is very important work. So what are some takeaways that you would want the readers to leave with?
A takeaway that I would want the leaders to leave with would be that we come with bias. And when you put your bias into a situation, we can't necessarily take ourselves away from our bias, but just be opening to listening to that other person and not always be so quick to sue. Like even my own experiences with applying to my job, you know, I filled out black and white, and the HR person handed me the paper back and told me that I couldn't be both. So I could have sued and made all this noise, but based on how I was raised, the school, you don't sue schools because that's going to impact a lot of children, not just, because of your personal situation. So go into that environment and be the change that you can be, and love on people and encourage people to be the best. So we can do the best for our students.
Absolutely. So that empathy piece is very, very critical. So definitely appreciate you bringing that up, and appreciate you being part of this compilation and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with that. So thank you so much, Ryan. It's been great having you in the hot seat.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And last and certainly not least, we have up the final author in EduSnap18, the writer of Ever-Changing Nature and Needs. You all may also know this person by the hashtag the YNU or hashtag CLIMBE. We have coming up next to the hot seat, Dean Gainey.
Hello, 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 everybody.
Hey, Dean, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
All right, wonderful, wonderful.
Such great words everybody's been sharing today. It's so amazing to hear what everybody's saying and how it's so interconnected.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, yes. This is all intertwined. So, so fantastic. And your chapter, the ever-changing nature and needs, is kind of like giving us a look ahead to the future. So, I'm going to let you describe it. But before we do that, could you please introduce yourself for anyone who may not know you?
Sure. My name is Dean Gainey. I'm in the beautiful city of Orlando, Florida. I'm in my 13th year of education, K-6 for the most part, but I have had some influence in middle school as well. And I am recently published solo author in April of this year, and I'm so excited that that continues to make impacts all over the world. So that's me.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, tell us please about your chapter.
Well, so in the 13 years that I've been in the classroom, one thing I've noticed is that things change, students change, times change, expectations change. And I think with those changes, me as an educator has also changed. And it was kind of a reflective process of identifying that what I did when I first started teaching my very first year is so different from what I am doing now. And my perspectives, my philosophies, my approaches to teaching and learning are different in the sense that they have been shaped, they have been aligned with the students that I'm teaching. And so I think it's important to understand the relevance of always being a learner, always being somebody that is willing to change, always thinking about the students that are in your classroom at that present time, because what they might need, what a student even in your classroom might need, may be very different than what the next student might need. And so it came from a place of identifying that what I do in the classroom is very much so dependent upon the student or the students themselves that I'm teaching at that time.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So I forgot if I asked you for your motivation or for the summary. So which one did I just ask you?
That was the motivation.
Okay. Okay. I was afraid that I got it like out of order, but okay. So if you could please summarize your chapter for us.
So in the chapter, I talk about Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how students really feel the idea that students don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And it's one thing to be able to teach students, but it's another thing altogether to be able to reach students. And so I like to focus on the fact that it's not just about the teach, it's about the reach. And because it's about the reach, I have to be willing to not only learn, but I have to be willing to shape and adapt to the needs of the student or students in my classroom at that time. And it's not going to be the same every year. It might not be the same every day. And being willing to to think beyond the academics, right? If it was just about the academics, I think that just focusing on the academics does not think about the individual as a whole. I think we look at a child as being a whole child, and there are so many things that students come to school, with baggage, things that they need to sort of just get it out or debrief or whatever. And I will confess that there have been times where I have allowed it in my classroom because I realize it's what they need today, and if I don't touch that, then I can't touch teaching. I can't touch academics if I don't touch those parts, or then so they can sort of unpack and then reload with what I'm teaching for that particular day. So guilty as charged, but I believe that those are just as much learning moments as the academic times of teaching. And so that's kind of where that chapter goes. And I really feel that putting ourselves in a position as educators to be ones that reach kids might mean, or actually does mean, that we have to learn, because we can't really focus or remain in those traditional forms of teaching that may be in place at certain times. So we need to be willing to go beyond that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So can you please hit us with some takeaways that you want the reader to take away from your chapter?
I would say three things. I would say is one of those is to be open to change, being willing to reflect on, and I think we do that really well. I just think that it probably to be willing to reflect at all times, be reflective in our practices, and the more that we reflect on what we do, the more we actually are able to identify and evaluate whether or not what we're doing is effective. And so I would say to be relevant. And I feel like, if I stop learning, I am no longer relevant to my students, because these students today, are not necessarily, and I say that in the sense that their needs are different today than perhaps they were when I first started. So I want to be relevant. And so because I want to be relevant, I'm going to keep learning.
Love that. Love that. Well, thank you so much, Dean. That was fire as always. So appreciate you being on here. All right. So we have heard, let me see, was there anyone, I always want to double check because there were so many authors and, people were kind of coming and going. So just trying to make sure that we heard from all of the authors who are here. So if we haven't heard from you, please speak now or forever hold your peace. Almost feels like getting married, right? Yes, I see your comment, Alfred. I am off the hook. Absolutely. All right. So thank you all so much for being here. Before you go, then we have some fun giveaways as promised. So we have three giveaways. So in order for, Melody, great question. I'm going to drop that info in just a second. All right. But for the giveaways, going to need your chat open. So you might notice on the bottom, I think it's on the bottom of your Zoom. So many of you have already been hitting up the chat. So we're going to give away 3 prizes. So the first prize that we're going to give away is the print version. So this EduSnap18, and everyone is eligible for it. Whether you wrote a chapter in or did not, then everyone is eligible. So going to see who can come up with this answer the fastest in chat. All right. So whoever drops it first in chat, or within a minute gets closest, then they will be the winner. So the question is, what was the date that EduMatch was founded? So ready, set, go. Go ahead and put that in the chat. Okay, I see 2008, 2016. I need like actual day states because there's, so. Okay. I see that someone does have the right year. I will say that. So I'm going to give you until 7:26 and 7:26 Eastern, and then we'll pick a winner. Because I do see someone with the right year. Should I sing the Jeopardy theme song? Oh, somebody is super close. No Googling. All right, and time is up. So the winner, I'm gonna actually give it to two people because I saw that Marvia had the year correct first. So Marvia first said 2014, and Rochelle said September 28th, 2014. It was September 26th. So I'm going to go ahead and give both of y'all that print version. So yay! Congrats on that. So now the next one, and I actually have to find this answer myself, so I need to do a little digging. I'm not going to tell y'all exactly where I am digging. So we'll see if you can find the answer. So first of all, a little bit of history. EduMatch started with a person of the day form that people would fill out, and it would tell a little bit about them. So some of you have filled that out, and that has since evolved to something else where I just went to go Google the answer. But how many viable people have filled out the person of the day form? So whoever gets it closest will be the next winner. And we're gonna, since Marvia and Rochelle already won, if you win this time, then you can pick somebody in here to give it to. Okay. I'll give you about 30 more seconds. Oh my goodness. These numbers are going so fast. Okay. All right, and time. So for this, okay, so for this one, the correct answer is 1,146, and you can find that edumatch.org /awesome-table-of-edumatch. So Marvia, you won, or actually, if you want to find a quicker way, just go to edumatch.org and look under databases, and you'll see the awesome table of EduMatch. So Marvia won. So Marvia, since you won the print version, then the Kindle version, you can pick somebody to give it to, or I could give it to the next closest person.
Give it to the next closest person.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna give it to Alfred. Alfred, you will get a Kindle version of EduSnap18. And it's funny because this was almost like The Price is Right. You know how like people pick $1 and then somebody else says $2. That was kind of how that went. Great. All right. So last question. Are y'all ready? Okay. Here we go. Okay, so this book is being released tomorrow. Okay. So this is for a t-shirt. Okay. So how many books as of tomorrow, has EduMatch published? All right. So the first person I see with the right answer. Natasha got it, 10. This is lucky number 10. So congratulations, Natasha. So I will connect with you, and I will connect with Marvia, and I will connect with Rochelle so I can get mailing addresses. And Alfred, I will also need to connect with you to get your address for Kindle. So awesomeness. Thank you all so much. So for next year, if anybody wants to get in on this for next year, then I'm going to drop the link right now. This is books.edumatch.org /EduSnap form. I believe that should work. That's what I printed in the back of the book, so I hope it works. So we'll find out. Let me see. Clicking on it, and yep. So I just need to change the 18 to 19. So if you want to get in on that, then that is how you can get in. Please tell your friends. Want to give a couple of shout outs. So the EduMatch, thank you so much. I'm seeing the comments. Y'all are so kind. And this is, Rochelle, you do have a question. Rochelle.
I do. It's a surprise, right?
Uh-oh.
No, not really. Me questioning. So it's actually a question for Peggy George. Does Peggy have a book? Is she planning on ordering a book? I'm putting her on the spot. We'll see. Because she's always there. She has a Kindle book. Oh, because I was going to say you could send mine to Peggy.
You know what? Let me. I want to send one to Peggy anyway.
Well, send her mine.
How about both of y'all?
No, for real.
Yes. All right. So I'm
gonna
gonna
connect
Peggy too, because Peggy she is definitely, have to give a huge shout out to Peggy. She is always here for us with the EduMatch family. She is, you know, constantly supporting and just a rock star, definitely. So awesomeness. So thank y'all so much. Just wanted to give a shout out to our EduMatch authors. So that includes all of y'all. So if you're already in the Facebook group, or if you're not already in the Facebook group, I should say, just hit me up on Google Classroom and we'll make sure that you're added to that. Also, for anybody who's interested in writing a solo book, then just go to edumatch.org/books, and you'll see at the bottom of the page a form to submit for solo books. Also, anyone who's going to ISTE, then if you go to this link, which is events.edumatch.org, I'm typing it as I'm talking, edumatch.org/ISTE19. We're actually having 2 events because this is year 5 of EduMatch, so we have to do it a big time. So Saturday, we will be doing karaoke in the evening, limited slots available for that. But Sunday, we are going to be doing our traditional lunch. We're going to be doing it at Rosa's Fresh Pizza. So it's going to be amazing because they have such a great, they really pay it forward. So every time you go there and you donate $1, then they give a slice to the community. So anybody who's hungry, they can just walk in, get a slice for free. You know, they just take the post it off the wall. So definitely we want to support them in their work there. So wanted to thank everybody. Thank you all so much for being here, and congratulations to all of the authors. Yay, tomorrow's a big day. So everyone have a great one and enjoy the rest of your evening. Happy New Year. Woo! All right, bye everybody.